Please welcome Monica and Natasha.
Okay, so a former colleague of mine, Simon Pohl, who presented at Worktech at the British Library 3 years ago, presented the concept of this project. And he promised that we would be back in the future to present the results. So we have the pleasure of having Monica over. And I'm just going to start with a few topics, and then at the end of each topic, propose a question back to you. So it's a bit of a probing or a way of instigating the discussion. So if we start with topic 1. Oops. There we go. Okay, so thank you. So topic 1, we've all been talking about activity-based working, flexible working. We can call it what we want, but But when we look at the dictionary and we try to find, even if you Google, if you try to find a definition of what activity-based working or flexible working is, it's really hard to find something that's concrete, that's concise. So we came together and we thought about what activity-based working is. And it allows full access to a functionally tailored workplace, resources and amenities on an as-needed basis. So for us, it's about membership, it's not about ownership. And we're seeing a lot of common themes from yesterday's discussions and probably continuing today. So flexible working, activity-based working is actually old news in some markets. And we have the pleasure of talking about some key projects that are from overseas today. So if we look at the case studies, if we take Australia, for example, and we look at the different case studies, it's not just in one sector, it's in all different sectors. So it crosses over, and we've got great workplaces coming from different regions. And if you look at the timeline, Macquarie Bank was one of the kickstarters, so it was around the time of the global financial crisis, and whether this is a coincidence or a trend, but it started to move and change the landscape of workplace in different regions. So if we look specifically at the financial market, and we look at the financial market in Australia, you've got the 4 big banks. And I asked Monica yesterday what she thought the differentiating factor was, what's happening over there. And she said it would be an interesting way of turning it back to you and proposing questions. So all 4 big banks are using some form of flexible working, some form of activity-based working. So what can we learn from this? And we're going to talk about Monica's project and celebrate that. But if you look at workplace in general, and it doesn't matter the context, we're always trying to design for these, if you put them into categories, these 8 main focuses. This is what makes a healthy workplace, it's what makes a great workplace. So it doesn't matter which region or where you're putting this space, it's all these factors that make a great place. So my first question to you is why Australia? What's coming out of there? Why is what's breeding something, this innovation, why is it coming from there? So the second topic is about blurring boundaries. And if we use Borg Street as an example, so originally, in terms of design, commonly we'd come up through a building and you disperse onto floors, but you're siloed, so circulation through and onto your floor. And then we start looking at the evolution of breaking up buildings, looking at interconnecting spaces through the atrium, activating the atrium. So you're beginning to have this sense of community. But as this is still evolving, and now you're looking at spaces where the community is coming in. You're breaking down the boundaries of where the public and private is. And you're also, because of this membership, not ownership, you're allowing people to flow freely through spaces. So if we look at Borg Street, we can talk about the public coming in. So the public realm begins outside, it bleeds into, this is the main entrance space. And so you've got levels 1, 2, and 3, which are actually public. You're bringing the community and the public into what would normally be the HQ of a big corporate headquarters. So you're looking at views right into a financial HQ. You're looking at public spaces, so you've got places to assembly and to come together. The community can use these spaces on those floors and roam freely. So it's the freedom, the flexibility of cafe spaces, as well as we were talking about co-working yesterday. And this is a co-working space which is called the Village, which brings people together, and it's also run by the bank themselves. So the second question to you, which we will discuss after Monica's presentation, is where is the line between corporate and community, and also public versus private? So Monica, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Natasha, and hello everyone. I have to say that it's an absolute privilege to be here. I got to know a number of you yesterday, and what was a key takeout for me, amongst many things, was the richness of knowledge, experience and passion that's in the room around the topics we're talking on. So I feel very humbled to bring the Australian story to the stage of this great city of London. What I'll be doing today is, before touching on 700 Burke Street, is sharing with you a very snapshot of the last 5 years of the real estate and workplace transformation of NAB in Australia. We'll be touching on a few key projects and then finishing with what's on the drawing board at the moment. And what's on the drawing board is ever changing, which is probably a good thing, because we're still yet to find exactly what the next 5 years looks like for us. Oops, wrong direction, apologies. Touching on the landscape of what informed the last 5 years of change. Many things did, but if I just touch on a few key areas, banking, no surprises, the banking sector was facing into a low revenue and reduced margins and a competition for capital. It goes without saying. But what was really interesting about this challenge was that with it came a license and an expectation to problem solve and innovate. That was essential to be able to work through the impacts of the economic situation for banks. Customers was an interesting slight shift that was going on in Australia. With the evolution of digital, most customers were expecting banking 24/7 online, but they were still expecting and insisting to be able to connect with people and connect in stores and have a high level of professional experience and service with that, and also an increasing expectation of tailoring of products rather than having standard mass-produced products that are actually offered to customers. The workforce profile, interestingly, did not shift dramatically in that 5 years. But what we did see is, with the Enterprise Employment Agreement, that inclusion of more flexible working options. So shared roles, part-time working, compressed hours, flexible working. So really, the people that were employed or are employed by NAB have got a greater option of choice in how they choose to work. So the consequence of that, we're seeing a greater diversity coming through the workplace. There are more males that are choosing to work part-time and shared arrangements. And we expect that that's going to continue in the future. And a big push on diversity. The CEO was renowned of saying that we have to have a workforce that represented the community of who we service. So a very strong push on diversity over the last 5 years. And social. The role of corporations and organisations, and banks in particular in Australia, and I'm sure other countries, by the employees and by the communities, a greater contribution to the community, to the social fabric, into environmental sustainability. So it became a strategic pillar and an expectation of how business is actually undertaken, and a direct contribution to shareholder value that's reported on every year. So that, as well as the purpose of the organisation, the culture. At that time we had a CEO whose vision was to establish a culture that he himself embodied. He's quoted to say, "I'm going to be married to my wife longer than I'm going to be the CEO of this organisation, so I'm going to have the right balance for myself," and he expected that from the rest of the employees. So all these things, if you like, influence the workplace and the corporate real estate solution. And I'll just take you quickly through the journey. Flexible working, which is what we called them, started in 2009. Today we have over 75% of the workforce working flexibly. Now it is really the way we work at NAB. And the FM team, the operations team, have a level of sophistication around how they are sustaining it and continually improving and checking in on people working in an agile way. Systematically through the states of Australia, we worked through a consolidation program, and the office properties all have the same principles. Differences for different region, estate nuances, but same principles of open plan, agile, share spaces, collaborative, and not one office in the portfolio. Again, another famous quote, the CEO said, if you ever saw an office, he'd take a hammer and bash it down. So he was very passionate about no offices anywhere. So it was always interesting to see state managing directors try and hide their meeting room that way they were using as an office when the CEO visited. The same principle was applied to the retail portfolio. 5 designs created for the branch network. I'll just quickly fly through this because I know I'm already taking up too much time. Very open plan. Security becomes invisible. Very much inspired by the Apple Store experience. Tellers, the staff that are working on floor. So if you come into a branch, you can see the staff working in shared workstations, and they know when a customer is queuing or needing actual support or assistance. This principle of the design is throughout all the 5 branch designs in the portfolio. This is the Business Banking Centre, introduced in 2013. A few more facilities, but what was quite interesting about this is the facilities are for business banking customers to use and their customers. So if you're a banker, you can share those with your own customers in that environment. And again, the hub, which is an offering of retail, business and wealth management all into the one space. Again, very simple, same open plan, transparent, and the experience of going into a retail store as opposed to a traditional banking environment. In 2013, we finished the largest consolidation in Melbourne, which we'll touch on. I'll touch on very quickly, and it also included the latest smart store. So using technology to offer a self-service offering, using smart machines, but still having staff store there to offer a high-touch, personalised banking experience. And of course, the village, which was an experiment and was very successful, and I'll talk about that quickly. What was one of the most simple solutions, the most obvious solution, was utilising the network portfolio across Australia. So there were 1,400 locations around Australia. So we simply did a heat map of where employees worked. We looked at there was underutilised space, and we established them as work hubs. So another offering of choice where employees can work. And we finished a pilot, and now we're going to be rolling that out across Australia. Hugely successful. And what was really interesting was the teaming that was going on. Head office staff would go into the front line, be frustrated about the issues they're seeing, the store staff experiencing, whether it's technology or whatnot, would come back into the headquarters and champion a resolution for that. So we thought that would be really special and something that we hope to, that will continue on with the continuation of the rollout. This is the last design, and I bent the retail banking team's arm to be able to show this with you. This is the latest modular mobile banking design. Prototype was only built in the warehouse 2 weeks ago. It's being launched in February. It literally fits on top of a truck, 30 square metres, and will be deployed to different areas of banking across Australia. Predominantly targeted for disaster recovery. We have a lot of bushfires and floods up north. We're coming close to that season, but also to be able to target new development markets, and also to use it to prevent the downtime in stores when they're going through the refresh in the store experience. Very modular and mobile in its form. We can add on sections depending on the offering, the longevity of where that's staying there. So on to the vision. The vision, quite simply, is the bank's purpose. Why have a different vision? So it's to realise the potential of people, customers and the community. There's 9 principles honed in on customer, community and authenticity of the space. It's a 63,000 square metre building nestled between a stadium and a railway station. It is one building campus amongst 3. So the 12,000 people that work on Burke Street actually have a choice of buildings or their own location where they can choose to work. and purposely positioned next to a stadium to get good foot traffic and publicity. 2 floors to the customer, 11 office floors above. It's a triangular building, atrium in the middle, and what's really quite interesting about a triangular building is you have a porosity and transparency around this whole ecosystem around you. You can see the workforce work, you can look down, you can see the community and customers sharing the spaces within the building. Authenticity was key, predominantly because the ambition was to make it simple, functional, not over-engineered, paid back, sustainable. We didn't want it to be ostentatious. We didn't want it to look like a traditional bank, and that was and that really played out the materiality of the building. And of course, a diverse range of settings, including external work areas where employees and customer communities can actually work if they come into the centre of the building. That is a 6-star Green Star building, equivalent to BREEAM Outstanding. With the completion of this building, 81% of the portfolio across Australia is the equivalent or greater than 4-star neighbours. So having a environmentally sustainable portfolio is very important, and that continues on into the network portfolio now. Customer and community, as I said, a quick flick through, all these facilities are shared. So if you have a connection with a neighbour, you can book those facilities and interact with employees or your own customers that you bring into the space. And then lastly, the co-working space. This was an experiment. The space was meant to be a restaurant. It didn't happen. We did some problem solving, and we really were inspired by the sense of authenticity and what can we bring into this building that does connect customers, community and employees, and the co-working for the business that was created. The members run the place. They write down what events they wish to see, what knowledge they want to draw on from the bank, what experience they want to actually have. So they run it. We just facilitate and keep the lights on for them and host it, if you like. And the feedback from the members has been brilliant. Really, the feedback in itself has been something that is inspiring enough to carry on around a depth of relationship with NAB that they haven't had before, networking, etc., etc. And it's opened officially in February. It has over 1,000 members. 22% of those members are new customers to NAB. For those bean counters, we can do a quick calculation for them to justify a commercial business case, but it's much more than that. The businesses are now using those customers and members to problem solve, to have hackathons, to engage with, to get feedback around what NAB is doing right or doing wrong. The result, we're a bank with hosts of metrics and measures. I'll just draw on a few of them. So over that 5-year period of the portfolio transformation, the portfolio did shrink by 15%, and we supported a 10% increase in growth in the workforce. Over 75% of employees are working flexibly. Interestingly, employees believe that if they have choice of where and when and how they work, they feel more productive. 80% of the employees feel that way, so we're continuing to offering that choice in that environment. For 700 Berg specifically, plus 16% of employees feel they have a greater level of collaboration and productivity, and the workplace represents the culture and brand that they believe NAB entails. The future. Now, I must admit, listening to Marie yesterday, which was very inspiring. I think I need to have sex with robots on here. That should keep executives' attention up. But also, Charles, how inspirational was that? And I do believe that social intelligence in the workplace is absolutely key, and that's definitely a common theme that has been coming out of the discussions yesterday and this morning even. So what's on the drawing at the moment is a desire to roll out more co-working villages. The essence of a co-working village in the bank seems to have a spirit and a social intelligence, if you like, that is new and inspiring. Additional distributed hubs across Australia, so employees have more choice of where they can work and where they choose to work rather than coming into the big smoke. Albeit Melbourne cities aren't that smoky yet, but they're getting that way. The network transformation, those 5 designs are locked and loaded, if you like. There will be slight tweaks, but those designs are being rolled out. And we're now doing some navel gazing. We're stopping, we're breathing, we're assessing around what's going around us to design what the next 5 years looks like for the future of work for everyone. And the key areas of interest is absolutely physical and mental wellbeing. A recent survey showed that 1 in 5 Australian people have a mental illness. It doesn't take a mathematician to know that you're going to have that impact on your workforce. Disruptive technology, of course. Sustainability does matter, and that is continuing on, and we're targeting the retail portfolio now. Customer centricity continues and the blurring of the boundaries. And the changes in social and community, we're watching that, we will be watching it more very carefully around what that impact has on work and what NAB as an organisation needs to address the workforce profile. So closing, no doubt change is continuing at a head-spinning pace. You look, I mean, when I was pulling this together, I think, geez, 5 years of incredible change. Next 5 years will continue. And I think we as leaders, particularly the property workplace practitioners, we have an opportunity to identify areas of value that traditionally don't come with our discipline, and we've been touching on them already. And I think our opportunity is to look at how we can pull that value lever across community, customers, business and people, and I think that's where it lies, and hopefully that's the problem we're now trying to solve for the next 5 to 10 years. So, thank you.